Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
I don't think I've ever seen anything quite like this before.
You know, Wobbles, I'm kind of mad at you.
And as a reasonable man, I'm willing to do whatever's necessary to find a peaceful solution to these problems.
All right. Well, welcome to what I think is episode 6 of the Punching Up Movie Podcast. And for those of you who are just tuning in, basically what we do is we take a film from the canon or a popular film or a film that's a beloved cult classic, and we take a massive swing at it. If there's something that we don't like about it, or we just don't like the film, or at least one of us does and the other one defends it. And so this is a special occasion for me. I can relax a little bit. And if we got any mail, apart from that one mail from my mate, Matt, thank you for that. If you've got any fan mail, all the hate mail will be directed at me. And now it's Damian's turn to receive tidal wave of hate, because you're the one on the aggressor side today, aren't you, Damian?
Yeah.
And what film are we talking about?
So we are doing today the film called Inception.
Yeah, which is written behind me.
It is.
If you're watching on YouTube.
But for the audios, I just want to say quickly, thanks to everybody who's listened so far. And if you could subscribe, comment, all those kind of things, let your mates know, that would be fantastic. Thanks so much for listening thus far. Inception. Yeah. Spinning tops, dream logic, folding cities, mind-bending corporate thievery, Hans Zimmer, the planting of ideas, the human mind, the Leonardo DiCaprio starring Christopher Nolan directing action thriller from 2010, otherwise known as Ocean Inception.
Ocean Inception.
Or Enter the Dreaming.
Enter the Dreaming. I like it.
Okay, a group of thieves led by Leo try to steal corporate information through the subconscious of their victim whilst everyone is dreaming. Or are they? In the immortal words of Sir Frederick Mercury, is this the real life or is this just fantasy? You decide. Over to you.
All right, so a little bit of background to the movie before we find out what Damian doesn't like about it. Inception was the dream project of Christopher Nolan since around about the time he made Memento. So he made Memento. It was his second film. It became a little bit of a breakout indie hit, which led to him being picked up by Warner Brothers and given the job of remaking the Norwegian thriller Insomnia. Yeah, it does quite well. And he's kind of starting to be given the keys to the kingdom, and he comes up with this idea for Inception, but he doesn't feel he's ready. He consults with his wife, Emma Thomas, and she's not sure how they're going to conceive these ideas. And so what he does is he does a couple of Batman movies and a few movies in between, learns how to make big action sequences and marshal enormous productions. The Dark Knight makes $1 billion, and then all of a sudden Christopher Nolan can do what he wants. And so he decides 10 years later that this is the time to make Inception. And it's a big logistical task. He assembles his team. He writes this script. And the funny thing about the script is that he just doesn't want anybody to see the script. He doesn't want any spoilers getting out ahead of time. So he assembles the people that he wants, and he literally locks them in a room and gets them to read the script in secret. And then he assembles his cast. And it's all built around Leonardo DiCaprio. For him, Leonardo DiCaprio is the key element. He's the humanizing element in essentially what is a cerebral story. And then he cast the movie. Not necessarily the best actors available or the most high profile, but he cast them in terms of their compatibility with Leonardo DiCaprio more than anything else. And this includes a lot of actors that are on the up that have now become massive stars and members of the Christopher Nolan family. People like Tom Hardy, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Ellen Page, Cillian Murphy, Ken Watanabe, who he'd already worked with. I think he worked with Murphy and Watanabe in Batman Begins. And then it's this enormous set that he wants to, these incredible ideas he wants to put on film, but he wants to do as much of it practically as possible. So it's shot over, I think, 4 continents, 5 cities. He's recreating it, in camera, all these incredible effects. Like there's a bit where Page and DiCaprio were sat in this Paris cafe in the middle of a dream, and the street explodes, and he recreates this explosion using air cannons. There's a bit where a truck crashes through. Oh no, train, sorry, and he literally builds this sort of balsa wood and fiberglass, sort of train structure over a truck. He even seems to command the elements, because the climax takes place in a snowy mountain fortress within a dream, and he's got this location picked in Calgary, and then come nearer and nearer the shoot, there's no snow, and he's going to recreate the snow, and then, as if obeying the will of Christopher Nolan, there's the biggest snowfall Calgary's known in years, but they're worried about the avalanche, so he literally creates his own avalanches. So he gets these people to fly around mountains, dropping bombs to create an avalanche he needs. And so it's this incredible feat of analog special effects, sort of orchestration, and then delivers the film. The film's about $168 million, the budget, and he delivers it on time and under budget and releases it. And it is a monster hit. And it makes something like $880 million and has become a bit of a science fiction beloved classic, recent classic. And Damian, you don't like it.
Yeah.
So initially, what's your history? What's your history with Inception?
So it came out in 2010. I don't really remember. I just listened to a podcast and they were saying that there weren't many good films out in that year, but I have to look back and see what the films were because I probably.
I remember what I can help you a little bit. I remember what it was up against in the Oscars because it was nominated for a load of Oscars, mainly technical ones, but it did get Best Film and Best Original Screenplay, and it was beaten by The King's Speech. Wow. Apart from the technical, and The Social Network was the other big, brilliant movie that it was up against, and I think Nolan lost his Oscar. You could argue completely fairly, to Aaron Sorkin for The Social Network. I think that's one of the few Oscar things where you can't.
It was Fincher, was what for writing? You mean?
Yeah, for writing. So it was Aaron Sorkin who wrote it. Obviously, Fincher directed The Social Network. Yeah.
It came out, and I think I was just so put off by the fanboy element. My main problem with the film is the lack of heart. There's no warmth, really. I love Memento. Let's rewind, sorry. So Memento was the first film I saw, which most people saw. And then I bought his first film following on DVD, which was quite interesting. It's a film that he made over like a year, every weekend over a year, something like that. And while it sort of didn't contain like top actors, it had some great ideas in it, and you could see there was like kernels of something special, and that's the thing that gave him the money for Memento. And I rewatched Memento recently because I've not seen that since then, and I thoroughly enjoyed Memento. I think somehow, even though there's still a coldness, there's a vulnerability in Guy Pearce's character that I don't see in Leonardo DiCaprio's. IDGAF about Leonardo DiCaprio, his whole like journey. I don't care. I really don't care. Like, I'm not emotionally attached to any of it. Now I know that it's meant to be cerebral. I know it's meant to be a cerebral thing, and that's fine. But if I'm watching a film, I want to be able to latch onto something. Yeah. Even if it is a cerebral situation, I want to sort of care in some way, shape or form. Like, is it a dream? Is it not? Do I care? I don't care. Like, it looks great. It's technically amazing. There's some great acting in it. That snow James Bond bit. It's not Man with a Golden. Spy Love Me.
On Her Majesty's Secret Service, it's referenced.
Yeah. There's also Spy Love Me as well, mate. There's also a skiing bit. Spy Love Me. I just got bored by it. I feel that if I'm not fully engaged in it, then I just switch off. And I think that was my problem back then, that maybe I couldn't articulate as well or as badly as I am doing now. Anyway,
I was going to say, don't reveal what you felt about the rewatch just yet, but it's just like, I'm just going to sort of probe this a little bit more, because Christopher Nolan's problem initially with his own script, that he felt it was like too remote and too cerebral, and that he worked with Leonardo DiCaprio to sort of humanize the character, and he felt like the linchpin really was the whole, because I can never pronounce the second name, Marianne
Cotillard.
Yeah. well, she exists as a character that exists purely in his dreams, as his sort of dead wife, and she's the kind of agent of chaos in his mission, isn't she? That's the thing we didn't mention. So whenever he goes into people's dreams, she pops up, and she's this disruptive element. And he felt, and DiCaprio felt, that was the human element that made the film clearly the opposite of how you felt. So why do you think that fails? Because there's a lot of effort gone in to kind of make him a man with a sort of secret, and a man like tormented by guilt that's manifesting, what happened to his wife, which we won't give away, and the presence of his wife in his dreams.
Why won't we give it away? Let's give it away, man.
Well, no, it's just
okay. So yeah, I wanted to talk quickly, very quickly, about the whole sort of spoiler thing. Like that's a big thing. Now, if you're listening to this podcast and you haven't seen it, like it's on you in a sense, right? Like we're discussing, we are discussing it. We've in our previous episodes, we've spoiled things left, right, and center. Like we've put that in. I think that if the spoiler alert, we're going to be discussing some stuff. Like I'll say it now, but I think there's too much pandering towards that sort of thing at the moment. And if you come across something and listen to something, I don't know, I have much sympathy for you if you get upset that you think you've had something spoiled. Anyway, that's just a side note. Why does it not work? Leonardo DiCaprio based his character on Christopher Nolan, right?
I know that Nolan assembled the team, the fictional team, like they were making a movie. So So that DiCaprio is the director. Ellen Page is the production designer, because she's like the Tom Hardy's the actor, things like that.
Leonardo DiCaprio said in his press tour many times that he based it on Christopher Nolan.
All right, I didn't know that.
But maybe that was like a simplified version of what you're just talking about, And I feel like it was what my problem was with the Batman films. That the coldness, and I think Christian Bale's a perfect foil, if that's not the right way of using that word, but for Nolan, because he also lacks some sort of. I think he's a brilliant actor.
Do you mean he's like a perfect avatar for Nolan? Because a foil would be the opposite. Because
foil's the opposite.
Foil, isn't it? Because Heath Ledger is much needed humour and chaos in a
humour and humanity, to an extent, as crazy as he is. And I think that that's what Christopher Nolan does. He is very cerebral. Like that's his vibe, and he's not trying to mollycoddle you. And so even though he tried to imbue the Leonardo DiCaprio Cobb story and Marion Cotillard, his wife, with more humanity or emotion, it didn't work because I don't want to say he doesn't have that in him, because of course he does. He has that in him, but like as an artist, that's not where he leans to. So did you feel the same way?
No, I actually agree with you. I struggled a lot with Leonardo DiCaprio, and I like him, but I've gone on a journey liking him. I feel like there was a callow period. There was a period where he was a brilliant, like, young actor, like, say, What's Eating Gilbert Grape and This Boy's Life. He's mesmeric. And then he sort of peaks as being a great boy actor in Romeo and Juliet. And then he really struggles to become a man in his first few Scorsese films. So you look at him in, like, Gangs of New York, and he's just dwarfed by Daniel Day-Lewis. Daniel Day-Lewis eats him alive. And then I don't think it's until Wolf of Wall Street that he really kind of clicks into the Scorsese vibe. And then he's on a kind of really good run of roles where he's brilliant. I think he's an astonishing, like, great movie star, great actor. I love the stuff he does for Tarantino. I think Tarantino finds different sort of vulnerabilities in him, and whether he's playing a nasty racist or a kind of vain movie star, alcoholic. But at that point, I think he's almost on that cusp of not quite having the ability to sort of make you care about him in that role. He doesn't quite have the gravitas to be to it. Here's a point I'd like to throw at you. The film reminded me a lot of you said Ocean's, Inception. It reminds me of the Cape movie. It also reminded me a lot of, like, Tom Cruise's Mission Impossible movies, which I think are a lot more fun and equally well made. And also there's a similar ethos in especially in the more recent ones, where Tom Cruise is at great pains to create in-camera action. Do you think the film would have worked better with Tom Cruise, who would have been slightly older and has that charisma and has that, and he does have that sort of vulnerability, I think, when he wants to. He certainly does. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just not a big Tom Cruise fan.
Yeah, I like him. Yeah.
And so if Tom Cruise was in it, it would probably push me away from it even further. Yeah. I've seen maybe 2 of the Mission Impossible films and then like let them go. Didn't watch Maverick. I'm just not interested. There's lots of people. There's enough people to watch Tom Cruise with me just sort of standing in the background watching some art house French film like by myself. I'm quite happy doing.
All right. So I think the cast member that's the most fun, and I'm not a massive fan of this actor, but I think he's great in this. Tom Hardy.
100%.
Yeah, if you swap the roles, if Tom Hardy took the role, would it be a better film? Would you feel everything?
Yes. I think no doubt. I also heard in this podcast after Titanic, Leonardo DiCaprio purposely started taking films that would sort of like almost alienate his audience.
Yeah.
As a little bit of a sort of kickback to the juvie lead, taking films that were kind of would be problematic for a movie star.
Yeah.
And I think he's probably gone on a little slight journey of being, And what was this? Somebody was also saying that like Shutter Island and this are quite similar. They were released in the same year.
Oh, were they? I didn't realize they were that close.
Well, they were made around the same time as well. So I just thought it's quite interesting that he would have taken this. Well, obviously it's big and it's bold and it's probably, like nothing else that's. My problem is there's no heart. I think that if I watched a Mission Impossible film, I'd probably find more heart and more emotion in it. And
that's what I think. I almost think there's too much pseudo heart in the film. In Inception, because I think the bits with the wife drag the film down. The crucial bits where it needs to be propelling from like one set piece to another, and it stops and judders and. His wife turns up and then everything like grinds to a halt. I think I would have preferred a much more streamlined movie where you didn't know, you knew that he was burned because at the beginning that he's done something that's burned and he can't go to America or be arrested. And I kind of wish you didn't know what that was. And it was just about him getting back to America, and you didn't need to know that he had kids waiting for him. You didn't need to know he had this like sort of horrible like thing that had happened with his wife. And if it had just been streamlined, and the thing it kept reminding me of is the sort of Matrix, which it sort of has superficial comparisons with, where they lay out the ground rule philosophically in the first sort of half hour, and then it's action, and you know what the stakes are, and it's action, and it works a lot better, because I think almost it becomes hamstrung by its own ambition a bit.
I agree. I think that the set pieces end up not being as effective as they could be because of the lack of grabbing onto some humanity. Succession. I love Succession, and one of the things that people say when they watch 1 or 2 episodes is, "I can't really watch it. I don't like any of the characters," but as you watch more and more episodes, you start to see the humanity in the characters and you understand why they behave like that. And I think that there's the psychology is missing in this film. It's not there. But because the psychology is not there, that's one of the key elements that doesn't, or at least the connection between the psychology and the psyche and the subconscious, the true subconscious, it doesn't exist. It's just, it's uncanny valley. It's black and white without the splashes of color that need to be in there.
I actually think it's a deceptively stupid movie.
I agree.
Yeah, because I think there's these great pains for them to kind of explain the dream world, but I'll just reveal in my rewatch I didn't like it. That might be becoming evident anyway. But it's like I remember really liking it when I saw it. I remember it being Mark Kermode's film of the year. He's a bit of a Nolan fanboy. But I watched it expecting to enjoy it, having paid forked out 99p of my own money to buy it from Beast and Oxfam. in Nottingham. I think that's where I got. And
still got the receipt, mate. You know,
no, I haven't, unfortunately. It's going to go back to Beeston Oxford. But effectively, kind of thinking, oh yeah, it's just a bit long. I was a little bit, oh no, it's another, it's a 2 hour, 40-minute, however long it is, 2.5 hour movie. And I actually thought, this is an amazingly stupid film. And what happens is you have that horrible thing where all of the characters are experts. And you even have the Ellen Page character who's brought in as a newbie so the world can be explained to her, but they still establish that she's a genius. And then you feel that they're not experts talking to each other. It feels like sort of Freud for dummies, really sort of basic sort of dream theory. And then what I feel they should have done is establish the groundwork in the first half of the movie and then just got on with the mission. But they're stopping halfway through every action sequence to explain what's going on. And it just drags everything down. I couldn't believe that Christopher Nolan actually got an Oscar nomination for writing the screenplay because it's abysmal. It's a really, really bad screenplay.
It reminds me of why one of my main reasons why I didn't like it when it first came out was that, and I'd say this, I felt that it was the Emperor's New Clothes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And everybody was like, oh, it's so clever, it's so deep. Oh, they're going within a dream, and it's slowing down. And I was like, yeah, but is it? Is it really? Like, if you actually put it down on an Etch-a-Sketch, put it down on paper, is it that clever? It isn't. It's just because a bunch of dummies who normally go and watch like the big budget films watch it, and I'm being harsh, but like, allow me to be harsh for a second.
No, it's great.
They've gone in and they've gone, oh, that was really fun and it was really deep. It made me think, and it's just bullshit, mate. It was just Emperor's New Clothes bullshit. And I think that maybe Nolan had something to do with that. I think it might have been slightly maybe on purpose. I don't know.
I don't think I'm not sure. Well, I'm going to take that back because I think Oppenheimer was really well written, and you get this. I mean, I don't really know anything about nuclear fusion, but it felt to me like they dropped you into the middle of the world and you had to find your way. And because I think he does the opposite of what David Simon does, the creator of The Wire, and his philosophy is you take a world with its own language and you drop someone in the middle of it, and for an episode you can't understand what they're talking about, but you tune in and you get the most important points. So he does that with The Wire, with sort of police speak and drug speak. He does that brilliantly with Generation Kill, when you dropped into the middle of a reconnaissance unit in Afghanistan and they've got their own lingo and you know what they mean, but you can look it up, but also you tune into the overriding meaning and you understand what their intentions are.
Yeah.
And he doesn't do any of that. And it sounds dumb, and it kind of exposes itself a little bit. The other thing I want to talk about, unless there's anything else you want to say about the writing.
No, it's just Emperor's New Clothes.
Is the dream world is really boring because effectively it's not how dreams work. Because what he does brilliantly is he assumes that this might be how Christopher Nolan's dreams actually work. He assumes that you just dream the reality that you live in, and then weird stuff happens to it. So you've got to have to say that the dream rendering of when the world goes wrong is brilliant. So the famous bit that they plugged on the trailer where the city folds looks amazing, and it's amazing because it's been ripped off. Doctor Strange rips it off, like almost the point of plagiarism. And the streets exploding, the tilting, that they're brilliant. The action sequences where you got these hotel corridors like rotating, and you got all this kind of gravity-defying fight work. But what you want is like a talking banana or a unicorn running through, or coming into a room where Leonardo DiCaprio shagging his gran or something like that. The things that happen in real people's dreams and things like that. And it just doesn't bear any relation to how weird, random, incongruous, the strange stuff. And it kept reminding me of better dream films. I kept thinking, well, Nightmare on Elm Street does this sort of thing with a fraction of the budget, much better. And also, he makes the mistake of referring to lots of dream films as well, or he makes like little nods. I mean, he makes big nods to like On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And all I kept thinking was, the action in that's so much better than this.
Yeah.
Yeah. The scenes where he sees his children in his dreams, you never see their faces. They're always their back and they run around the corner. Yeah. Did that remind you of Don't Look Now at all?
Oh, yeah.
Which I think, well, how much better did that film replicate dream logic?
Yeah.
And then there's other things like, like there's a bit where one of his characters goes into a vault and finds a man lying in a bed with tubes in him. And I thought, well, 2001.
And
yeah, and 2001 mixed with a kind of Rosebud moment from because there's a word that's misunderstood, that's interpreted, but also what he's doing is at the end his dreaming is very literal, and it's embarrassingly literal. So they're looking for a secret in someone's subconscious. Where's the secret hidden? In a literal safe, which seems that it's not very dream logic. Everything's very literal, and so I felt like the dream world needed to be weirder. It needed to be more incongruous. Needed to have more sort of almost like quasi for it to resemble a real dream. And maybe that's the way Nolan dreams. But even if it is, you'd have hoped that he'd have studied, Jung, or that's my beginning and end of dream logic. Or like just some of the great sort of the great minds on dream logic. I just felt like it just missed an opportunity to sort of stick you in someone's mind or subconscious and have a really weird, strange journey. And it's just a very literal world.
Yeah, I totally 100% agree. 100% agree. It just made it not that interesting ultimately.
Yeah.
And as you said, the amount of what's the word when you explain things a lot in films?
Pedantry, exposition. Over exposition, yeah.
A lot of that going on.
Yeah,
you just said, plus I don't think the logic works. Like the totems are meant to be your totems.
Yeah,
you find out later that Leonardo's totem is Cotillard's totem.
Yeah. So
what are we saying here? Like, can we have some sort of like through line of consistency?
Yeah.
The moment where we see Cotillard on the ledge, you've got DiCaprio on the ledge on the other side. Like, that's just weird. What, they're in two different hotel rooms? Well, clearly, maybe it's all a dream. Maybe the whole thing's a dream. I read recently Michael Caine saying, asking Nolan what is real and what is not when he was filming it. And Nolan said to him, if you're in the scene, it's real. Yeah. But I don't believe that.
But do you think that's what he just says to Michael Caine? Yeah, to get him to just,
Yeah, shut up.
Yeah, well, no, not shut up.
No, I'm joking.
Michael Caine's really good as well. I think Michael Caine's great. I'd like more of him in that. He has 5 minutes, and but no, I mean, I wonder if that's just what you tell actors to get them to play the reality of the scene. You don't want them
play the reality that you want to see.
Yeah, I agree. In the way that every actor has to think that they're the hero in the movie. Because they have to generate an inner life and whatnot, and all of that sort of actor shenanigan and stuff. But yeah, it's weird. So I think I'm going to try and because I'm supposed to be like devil's advocating here and advocating, and I have to say that Nolan does deserve credit, with the exception of the Batman movies, for never going down a franchise road and always trying to create sort of science, whether you like it or not. I mean, it makes lots of money. I mean, I think with the exception of Tenet, which is the only film he did that sort of bombed, you have to admire his ability to create an amazing set piece, and his commitment to, I think, analog action, which I'm a big fan of, and sort of creating standalone new pieces of blockbuster cinema, and not sort of going to existing IP, or directing a sequel. What do you think about that?
Well, I do, but I mean, as you said, like there's still 3 Batman films that were like huge, massive hits. So like that sort of negates it. He did do that,
Well, I don't think it does, because I think the Lion, and he's done one remake. He did. He did Insomnia, which I liked actually. I remember really, really liking that. Yeah. But then that's given him the financial muscle to do everything else. So it has been an element of, because he did 2 Batman films, he does Inception. Because he does The Dark Knight, he can do Tenet. He can do Interstellar.
He's not gone back and forth, and he's just stuck with one trilogy, which like I rewatched Batman Begins 3 nights ago. Really enjoyed it, and I've seen it 3 times, and the first 2 times I thought it was all right. Or I think I probably liked it the first time. Then the second time I was like, this is a bit rubbish. But then watching it again, I was fully entertained and just in it the whole way. I was like, okay, this is good. This is fun. And obviously I wanted to see Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises before this, but that didn't happen. But I will definitely have a look at them just to sort of maybe reassess. I mean, my feeling with Inception this time round was pretty much the same.
Yeah.
I enjoyed a great deal of it, but I had those nagging, feelings all the way through it that just took me out and just made me think, it's kind of not as good as everybody thought it was.
I agree. I completely agree. I think the special effects guys won the Oscar for it, and they
should have won the Oscar.
Really deserved it. They were brilliant.
Amazing.
Let me just name check them. Chris Corbould and Paul Franklin. We salute you. Not that you our affirmation.
No,
your Oscars and millions and billions. I don't know how much these guys make. So can I tell you the Dark Knight Rises story? Because I've forgotten where they filmed part of Dark Knight. Woollerton Hall is Wayne Manor in our big stately home. Not that's not the story, but they had a screening. It was one of the first times I was aware that they did this. They had a 5 o'clock in the morning screening of it because they had this simultaneously released program, didn't they, to stop piracy. So when they brought it out, anywhere in the world, it was going to be screened at the same time.
Brilliant.
A friend of mine had got tickets, and I got up to see it, and I was really ill. And I went. This is pre-COVID, by the way. When you could do this, you could go completely infected and irradiated,
guilt-free.
Yeah, guilt-free. I wasn't killing anybody, just myself. And I went to this screening. It was absolutely packed at 5 o'clock in the morning, and I was sick as a dog. And I thought I was going to work next. I thought I'm going to phone in sick. I've got to. And then we walked out the cinema with my friend, and the local news station were like filming. They didn't film me, but they were filming people. And it was like, I've got to go to work, because I imagine
you'd be rumbled.
Yeah, if I phoned in sick and then they saw me like coming out of the cinema at 5 in the morning, I'd lose my.
Brilliant.
So I had to go, and it was a horrible day's work. So I was like sick as a dog. And
was that Dark Knight Rises or Dark Knight?
It was the last one with Tom Hardy, like mumbling. Yeah, just just doing this weird voice.
I'm looking forward to seeing that again. Like I'm looking forward to seeing his performance in it. He makes me laugh.
Yeah,
I think the balls out, just barefaced cheek of it is just needs to be saluted.
I haven't watched because I was thinking about this the other day. With the exception of like Batman Begins, I don't think I've ever rewatched a Christopher Nolan film, which surprised me. He's a one and done guy. And I've enjoyed most of the ones. I like Tenet. I admired the fact that he swung and he failed just in terms of trying to get people back in the cinema in the middle of COVID. I thought that was heroic. I don't know if it's tilting at windmills, because I don't know what I feel about the celluloid versus digital argument, because I think if digital can recreate something as good as celluloid, makes sense, because it keeps costs down, makes sense. But I do admire him and Tarantino's like almost like Alamo like defense of celluloid. I realized that I've just not gone back and rewatched any of his movies. I don't know why. That he's a one and done guy. I've wanted to watch. It's the one that always gets forgotten, apart from Insomnia. I wanted to watch The Prestige again, because he does introduce me to like kind of real life mad scientist figures I wouldn't ordinarily been interested in, like Oppenheimer, obviously. And I didn't know who Tesla was before I saw David Bowie play him. And then I became obsessed with Tesla a little bit. Not as much, not enough to get into his actual science. I was interested in, all the kind of lunatic shenanigans he got up to. The fact that he was a kind of brilliant madman, but yeah. Go on.
I was just going to say, I like the merry band of actors vibe that Nolan has. Yeah. And I just went through a number check of how many films. Here you go. How many films has Michael Caine done with Nolan?
I reckon. Well, he was. When did he first? Well, he's like 3 Batmans, 1 Prestige, Interstellar, Tenet. I'm missing one. I'm going to go with 7. He wasn't in Oppenheimer, because I think he's retired now, isn't he? I think more or less retired. Is it 7? Is it more than that?
It's 8.
Oh wow! Of course, yeah. And
Yeah,
here's the thing about I knew there's something else I wanted to sort of like quiz you about. His relationship with linear time in his movies has
yeah,
almost become like Tourette's,
yeah,
in the sense that it's almost like M. Night Shyamalan's relationship with twists.
yeah.
Um, do you wish that sometimes, because I felt this in Oppenheimer, do you wish sometimes you just tell a story from beginning to end, just in a linear order?
I mean, if I cared enough, yes. I just don't care enough. I don't think. I don't
Yeah,
like thinking about his films like that because, I mean, I enjoy non-linear stories. I've not seen a Nolan film since The Dark Knight Rises. I don't
yeah,
think. I've not seen Interstellar,
yeah.
Tenet, Dunkirk. I haven't seen Oppenheimer. I do want to go and see Oppenheimer, but just finding the time. So yeah, I haven't rushed to his film. So he's a filmmaker who I salute him. I think that
Yeah,
I'm so glad he's out there,
yeah.
and I see more of Tarantino than I see of Nolan, but I do have problems with Tarantino films as well, at times. So I'm glad he's out there. I think he's brilliant, but I'm just not drawn to his films. So the idea of whether he does a film non-linear or not just
Yeah.
doesn't even crop up on my radar.
Because I'll always go and see what and I've enjoyed the majority of the stuff he's done. I really hated Interstellar, by the way,
Right.
I think it suffers from a similar, which is what we haven't talked about. We've alluded to it. I think it has a similar fault with Inception, in that it's this film that deals with sort of, obviously, it's a journey into outer space, and this one's a journey into inner space, but they're kind of epic journeys. But then they devolve into soap operas at the end. And I remember calling Interstellar crying in space. Um, that's what it ended up being. It ended up being this incredible film about distance traveled that basically, and there's a lot of time folding in it. It's all really about Matthew McConaughey and his daughter. And you think, oh, okay.
Yeah,
Kubrick would never have done that. Kubrick wouldn't have cared about anybody and their daughter.
And Contact did it loads better.
Yeah, yeah,
no.
yeah. And he does the same. I'm going to contradict myself in a second, but he does the same with Inception and Inceptstellar. He does it with Inception, because the last 20 minutes of the movie. Because I was watching the movie, I think, oh, all the action's done. We've still got 20 minutes. Has it got 20 minutes of credits? What we got? Where's it? And then the last bit is like him working out or not his problems with his wife within the dream space. And you think, it's a soap opera now. But having said that, I was very, very moved by the last 10 minutes or 5 minutes of the movie. And and I try to think, well, why? And the person we haven't talked about is Hans Zimmer. I think Hans Zimmer's music does a lot of the heavy lifting for the film, I think. And this is a constant in a lot of the films we talked about. Like, the composer often supplies what's lacking.
The heart.
The heart. And also the last 5 or 6, I don't know how long it was. It plays without dialogue, and you think that's a key to how the film could have been better. Less chat, and it tells the story visually. You're a brilliant visual storyteller. Just don't use words. Just tell the story. And I really wasn't looking forward to the kind of the way his wife's relationship plays out, because I didn't think I cared. And then I found myself genuinely moved, and I think no one's talking. The music's working. It's told purely visually, and it is genuinely moving. If only So he's a weird one. He's there. He makes big movies. I'm glad he makes big movies and isn't like handcuffed to franchises, and gets to have his own way. Makes films like Oppenheimer, which I had mixed feelings about.
Yeah, more of the same, I presume.
Not really, no. Because I thought it was a very good film. It's a bit of a one and done film for me. There's certain films that are very significant, they're intense, they deal with very important issues. You watch them, you think that was brilliant. I'm probably never going to watch that again. Listeners and viewers don't hate me for this. I feel Schindler's List falls into that category.
Yeah, it does, but for different reasons, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's a much better film. It's a brilliant film, but it's intense. It's like 12 Years a Slave falls into that category.
Yeah.
And Oppenheimer's like making similar claims. It's talking about obviously the legacy of nuclear destruction and what this man unleashed onto the world and your forces he couldn't control. it's almost like a very small scale film shot, obviously with IMAX cameras. So and again, I wish it had been told in a linear fashion. It's not. The performances are some of the best I've seen in a Nolan movie. Cillian Murphy's brilliant. You know, he's paid his dues with Nolan. Obviously, he's like Peaky Blinders has elevated his status a lot, and he gives what should be an Oscar-winning performance at the end of the year. It's an astonishing performance. He's matched by Robert Downey Jr., who gives, you know, after 10 years of being Tony Stark, reminds you that he was always an absolutely phenomenally gifted character actor, and he's brilliant in it. I think the women get short shrift. I think Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh don't have a lot to do. My issue with it was, it's very long, it's very talky. That's the film, but I wish it hadn't been advertised as a spectacle. So I went to see it in IMAX. I'd have probably seen it in 70mm if there was a screen, you know. And the reason you go and see that is because of the recreation of the nuclear explosion in Los Alamos. Yeah. And I'd heard that he hadn't done it with any digital assistance. Yeah. And you wish he had. You know, because it's filmed in a very abstract way, which you commend, but it's not great spectacle. And you need, in the middle of a very, very talky film, a very cerebral film, you need that moment, that breathtaking moment where the widescreen, the IMAX screen is taken up by this massive mushroom cloud. You think, come on, you know, relax your principles a little bit and use a bit of CGI, give us a bit of spectacle. And he doesn't. Yeah. And then I went away thinking that was brilliant, but I'm exhausted. I'm probably not going to watch it again, you know. And so, which I think is a little bit of a problem. Might not be, might that be, because it'll stay in my mind. And you know, there we go.
Yeah, I think the further I am from the release, the less I want to see it, to be honest. Oppenheimer made more money because of Barbie. Hot take or not so hot take. Obviously, Barbenheimer phenomenon. Yeah, lots of people couldn't get to see Barbie in the first week or so because it was sold out, so they went to see Oppenheimer. I'm sure a lot of those people, if you're going to see, you know, most people, if you're going to see Barbie, you're not going to see Oppenheimer. You know, it's not.
But what a wonderful like anomaly, commercial anomaly that
I think it's amazing.
That these two, and I have to say, Barbie is I would say probably more. You've seen Barbie, haven't you?
Yeah, it's amazing.
I would say it's probably more creatively innovative than Oppenheimer.
Yeah,
and more just as avant-garde, more so in its own way, but it's also fun.
Yeah,
you know, and that's the other thing that Christopher Nolan. I don't think he has a sense of humor. I'm not sure. I've not met him. You hear some actors out. You hear Liam Neeson. I thought it was a bit of a dick for saying this because, like, you know, he mocks. He tells stories like clearly mocking, you know, Christopher Nolan. And I think, well, you know, gave you a boost. You know, gave you a good role. You know, in Batman Begins. Just don't be mean about him. Yeah, he sounds like a good guy, very very nice man, clearly very gifted man. But doesn't sound like a very funny guy. You know, and a very literal guy. You know, and stuff like that. And I think the humor comes from outside elements. You know, the only film I can think of is it's genuinely funny is The Dark Knight, and that's because he has the sense to let Heath Ledger just go with this character who is called the Joker. So you have to create space for him to be funny. And you know, I think his films. There's nothing wrong with a little humor. Even Schindler's List has humor. It has black humor, but there's you know, there's humor in it. There's little bits that kind of leaven or underscore the point with either humor or black humor. And obviously Spielberg's a consummate entertainer anyway. You know, he knows. You know, have we sort of said everything we've got to say about Nolan?
I think so. What you were saying about, just to finish off that point, I feel like Christian Bale's like that.
Yeah, which is why he's like the perfect for about 4 films. He's like the perfect. But there's a lot of warm character actors. I mean, I think Kenneth Branagh could be. I keep forgetting Kenneth Branagh turns up in a lot of his movies. He's, but I mean, Cillian Murphy's not funny particularly. I mean, he's funny in The Scarecrow when he plays the Scarecrow. But he's a very intense. You know, I'm trying to think if any of his leading men have been like. I think, you know, DiCaprio's funny, can be funny. He is funny, but not. But he's a one and done guy, isn't he? With Nolan, he never went back, never did another movie.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, and when he, you know, I mean, he used Robin Williams, but he countercasted him, didn't he?
Chino.
As a child murderer. yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you just don't think of his films as being particularly funny.
Where are the fucking jokes, Christopher Nolan?
Yeah,
Right, where are the jokes?
Make a comedy. Just let's have some laughs in.
Yeah, come on,
let's have some laughs.
It's so serious.
Yeah, that's I did actually put that down. I did put that down in my notes. I was so serious. You got it. But I mean, in Oppenheimer, if someone had their balls irradiated, or something like that, just a little bit like that. Matt Damon's good. Matt Damon's quite funny in Oppenheimer. I forgot about him.
We should wrap up now. Thank you again for listening to us bang on about our nonsense. The next episode is going to tackle Richard Roundtree in
black leather
in the blaxploitation classic Shaft.
Yeah.
Or is it a classic?
Well, it's a cult classic. Massive commercial success.
Through the claws are coming out, mate.
Yeah.
Things are about to get real.
And I don't know. I think we sort of uncorked a bottle here. I think you've just spent 5 episodes being really nice.
Yeah.
A lot of darkness your side of the screen, my friend. I was a bit scared of you this episode.
It's my Jungian shadow side, mate. It has to come out.
So I think I'm going to take the steering wheel on this next one.
Yeah.
Just let you decompress, go to a mountain retreat, siphon off some of that evil, and then you can come back swinging in sort of evil devil shoulder mode, beast mode. and I wasn't very good at being an advocate for Inception, so our natures reasserted themselves. And,
Well, it's off the back of Cat Baloo, mate. We were kind of on the same page with that one as well.
Although we did say a lot of nice things, but let's do it. Let's just go.
Thank you very much. Love you all. Thanks for listening. And we'll see you.
I tolerate you all.
We'll see you very soon.
Bye.
The mission has been completed.
Groovy.